Cosmic, 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 cosmic.
Hello and welcome to the universe of God. Here we discover it and then we uncover it. I want to thank you for tuning in and taking the time to go on this journey with me as we traverse into God's great and magnificent universe and discover who He is. And today we are going to start a series on the days of Noah, where we are going to begin discovering the past so we can understand the present. Noah, the days of Noah. This is a topic that has a lot of controversy today, and how fitting it is for such a time as this, when we are potentially looking in the face of the pre-flood days. We wouldn't know it if we just took the one biblical description in the Bible that discusses the days of Noah and what was going on in those days. So we are going to start uncovering other texts that give us a bigger picture of what the days of Noah were really like and what was really going on in these times that made Jesus connect the days of Noah to the coming of the Son of Man. And so we're going to start to dive into this topic bit by bit. There is so much to cover. And I'm just so thankful for those of you who are, diving into these deep waters of the biblical scriptures and ascending to the highest heights in the things of God, in the kingdom of God, so that you can know the Lord your God. So let's get started. Jesus says, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. What an interesting statement in light of the world that we live in today. What are the days of Noah? This is probably the question that we should start with if we want to understand why answering the question is necessary for this astrological age that we're living in, which I believe is still the age of Pisces. The days of Noah are inextricably tied to our present day, believe it or not, and can be learned about through several mediums of information. And so that's what we're going to be plugging into this series, is other sources of information, extra biblical texts and other historical texts that tell us more about the days of Noah. One of the things that I think is interesting is that we're living in what is called the information age. And the more that we start to discover the past in the pre-flood era, the more we are going to begin to uncover, as I have, and I'm sharing it here with you in the universe of God. We're going to uncover this history of technology, believe it or not. This age and this epoch of time where they were also living in what you could call an information age. So we're going to see how there are parallels, and we're going to begin to connect the dots and start to really, build our case to create the picture of what the days of Noah really looked like. And boy, are you in for a ride and in for a treat. Even though not all news is good news, just as not all information is true and accurate, we are going to, we're going to dig into these other texts. And when I say dig into them, I mean, I'm going to be sharing information with you that comes from these other texts. And we're not going to get hung up on necessarily, oh, is that in the Bible or so forth and so on, because the Bible is the main thing. It is the main documentation of historical record of time, and the historical evidence, and testimony to the God of the universe, the God of the ages, the God of all gods. Okay. And we're going to, use this to build our case and to give a bigger picture. One of the things that, that I like to do is I like to connect things. I like to take the puzzle pieces and put them together so we can see, what is it that we're really looking at here? We won't understand until the pieces of the puzzle start to come together. But because we have the correlating factors in these other historical and extra-biblical texts, such as the book of Enoch, which is not included in the Bible, but theologians, alternative theologians, I'll say, have really studied the book of Enoch and pretty much, have settled on the fact that it should have been in the Bible. That's not all theologians. That's not all pastors, but the ones that I am pulling information, they are of the strain of thought that the book of Enoch is an extra biblical text, and could have very well been included in the Bible. Our Bible in the West has 66 books. The Catholic Bible, I think, has 70. The Ethiopian Bible has like 72 or 80, something like that. These extra biblical texts that are not in the main Western Bible. So, all that being said, we are going to pull from them to learn more about a time that looks like a time that we are living in right now. The only difference is it doesn't look exactly the same, okay? In the Bible, Jesus said, you will know a tree by its fruit, right? So in the past, there were trees of just magnanimous height, okay? Trees that reached into the heavens, trees that, touched beyond the skies. There was a climate in place in the days of Noah, a canopy of that covered the earth, so to speak. The climate that's described in the days of Noah was like perfect living conditions where things could get, huge in size. Trees, insects, animals were much, much larger in the days of Noah than they are today because of this environment. So, and so my point is, you know a tree by its fruit. And back then, the trees may have been bigger. Some of the people may have been bigger. The animals, the insects may have been bigger, but the fruit is the same fruit that was back in the pre-flood days. And so we want to examine that fruit because it's going to tell us something about our present day. So, without being too long-winded, let's jump into more of this material. So, while Noah is considered to be a fable to some, to many across the world, Noah, or the Noah figure, has a history written across cultures and even imprinted in the stars. If you're a person who likes horoscopes and is drawn to astrology, enjoys astronomy, or even marvels at the macrocosm's delights, like I do, I marvel at the universe of God, then you should continue to learn more about the days of Noah and the biblical record that history and science are attesting to. Okay, the astrological tales and the astronomical signs in the days of Noah bring a heaping pile of added confirmation for us to behold. So, the days of Noah, they're often reflected through the Hollywood lens to us and pictured through our imagination when we read the Bible about Noah, or even listen to the stories of old about the Noah figure who was saved from the flood of the earth. The images we see and often imagine are old prehistoric days where there was nothing but dirt and barrenness, along with very senile people who were in the beginning of the earth's evolution process with modern man. The picture that we get of the pre-flood days are dim, and one that reflects a society with no advancement of any type. But there are many texts that would beg to differ. When you get the images of Hollywood portrayed scenes of these ancient times, you may be surprised to behold a world of technological advancement, beautifully lush inhabited places with people who technically lived to be 1,000 years old. Can you just imagine all that you would learn and what you would advance in if you lived this long? Let's critically think about living for 900 years and how we would have almost lived through a whole epoch of time with our children living long enough, to after a couple generations, we're experiencing, 2 zodiacal ages. That's remarkable. A zodiacal age is 2,160 years. So if we have people living to be almost 1,000 years, then, they have generations and generations of people coming after them that they are living with and seeing and passing this knowledge on. And if we want to go to virgin roots of the story, we have to think of Adam, created in a time where he walked in the garden of God, okay? And he learned from the master himself. So he had all information and all knowledge to a certain extent, knowledge that was necessary for him. When we read in the Old Testament, he named all the animals. He gave everything their name. So this was a highly intelligent being who lived almost 1,000 years, and human beings intelligent like him, coming after him. However, what happens is something that's not spoken about much in church at all. And unfortunate that is, because we would do well to understand what was going on and what it was like so that we can understand the time that we are living in, and if we are in fact living as in the days of Noah. So Noah lived in a time where it was reported in historical documentation and archaeological confirmation that there were giant Nephilim living during the time of Noah. Further reports, including biblical reports, as well shared some information about this Gemini age of time where angelic beings from outer space mated and reproduced illegally with humankind. What does illegally mean? Well, simply, in this context, it is telling us that angels who were not earthlings or of this earth were not to reproduce with another species, especially since they were of a different order of creation, being created for the heavens and not the earth. So this is an illegal act, okay? We have laws of gravity, right? If you break the law of gravity, you could die. If you jump off the roof and you're not prepared to manipulate the law of gravity properly, you would fall and die, right? So this is the same concept. It was an illegal encounter, an illegal intercourse that was taking place, and it caused and created a new race of beings called Nephilim, the giants of old and the men of renown, the men that they often talk about in mythological stories. And they were not humans. So we're going to see later on in the story of the days of Noah that because they were not human, but they were what you might call superhuman, but the Bible calls them Nephilim because they were crossbreeds, hybrids, basically. They were hybrids, something began to take place in the earth that was unnatural and shouldn't be taking place in the earth because the earth wasn't created for this type of being that wasn't even supposed to exist. But consider it beyond interesting to realize that we have global accounts along with scriptural accounts and various spiritual texts confirming an alien invasion and a mixing of genetics that contaminated the human population, threatened human extinction, and devoured Earth's resources. And ultimately created hybrid offspring that were known to have severe genetic horrors from the mixing of the two species. I'm going to come back with part 2. We're going to pick up talking more about the days of Noah as we discover the past to understand the present. Meet me over in part 2 so we can dive into this subject some more. I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. And God bless.